Very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu news analysis for today. That is 7th October 2025. So let us examine which news articles are UPSC relevant that we shall be analyzing for today's discussion. And today we have 7 articles that I have taken from the Hindu newspaper, the New Delhi edition. And like every day, the idea is to first understand in great detail the editorial articles by picking up all the exam relevant points by looking at which UPSC syllabus topic does it match from. And then we will see the quick small newses for the day. So today we have about 7 such news items. The first 3 are all page number 10. That means all of them are editorial articles. Yesterday, as many new students have been joining in, I just want to quickly let you know that we always start with the editorial, break them down, discuss the viewpoints, and only after that we proceed with the smaller news. Okay? And on that note, today 7 articles are there. First 3, as you can see, are all page number 10, and that's the editorial page. So before I start, a very good morning, my dearest Eric, Sita Ram, Rishi is here, Ramu is here, Aman is here. Sumedh, Balram, Soham, Saurav, Himanshu, Deepak, and Dipesh. Very good morning, everyone. So happy to see you. So now let's analyze all the news articles one by one. Because the elections in Bihar have started, they are underway. And we also know that Bihar elections came after a lot of controversy. We understand that elections in India can be studied under GS paper 2. Polity and governance, yes, we talk about Election Commission of India, we talk about the Supreme Court and the central government's involvement in this issue. A very sensitive issue, of course. Very sensitive issue. Because Bihar elections were all about electoral roll controversy. So today the newspaper is dominated by Bihar elections. Many articles from that. We are also looking at Assam, whether it makes sense to conduct an SIR in Assam as well. So all these topics shall be analyzed, but the first one here corresponds to welfare in India. Okay, what does it talk about? It is talking about welfare policies in India. And I hope we understand that whenever you talk about welfare policies given by the government, social assistance schemes, direct benefit transfer, subsidy, housing scheme, Manrega, all of these come under GS paper 2, because in GS paper 2 you have a separate topic called social justice. What is social justice? In India, right from the times of 1944, when the Indian National Congress adopted a plan called Bombay Plan. Please remember, Bombay Plan. It was adopted much before the independence, and under the Bombay Plan, India is a socialistic democracy. Yes, we are a democracy, but we also believe in distributive justice. We believe in the policy where the government will have to be responsible for helping the vulnerable communities. Many times we have repeated the same thing, that vulnerable and minority can be very different from each other. If you look at the Indian Constitution, only 2 kinds of minorities are recognized: linguistic and religious. But if you look at the vulnerability, that means marginalization, backwardness. We have many such categories, including women, old population geriatric, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, physically disabled, or people with benchmark disabilities. We have the economically weaker segment, we have the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, we have the denotified tribal groups, DNC, we have women, we have children, we have transgender, minorities, refugees. So vulnerable means many people are coming in that. When you talk about GS paper 2, social justice, we are looking at all the policies that the government of India creates. One, to help the minorities, both religious and linguistic. If you look at the Constitution, Articles 25 to Articles 30, all of them talk about minority protection. Plus, the welfare policies for the vulnerable. This article is looking at the welfare policy for the vulnerable people in India. This article is arguing that India today is in such a controversial situation, such a paradoxical situation, that we are now the 3rd largest economy of the world. Yes, We are soon going to become Atmanirbhar. Yes. By 2047, we are also claiming to become the Viksit Bharat, developed India. But there is another segment of population that is still grappling with inequality. As GDP is increasing, we are seeing social inequality is also increasing. Money is there, but that is in the hands of very few people. Less than 1% of people have more than 50% of the country's resources. Inequality is too much. For that, the government has created many tools such as direct benefit transfer. Example, Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar Yojana. Government gives employment benefit scheme like Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. The government gives other maternity benefits like Janani Suraksha, Matritva Vandana. All of that is there. But is that enough? That's not enough. So the article is saying rather than identifying few people, giving them targeted welfare, just on the lines of European countries, why don't we create a universal basic income protocol? What is it called? UBI, Universal Basic Income, where the government will give some amount of money every month or every 3 months or every year directly to the accounts of each and every resident of India. Sounds very unlikely, but that's what the article says. In European countries, the government gives some amount of money to every citizen, those who are working, those who are not working. Can we do something similar in India? Depending on a person's income and a person's economic condition, we can transfer a fixed amount of money every month. And that will enable the policy of universal basic income. That means every individual in India will now be having some money to spend on a monthly basis on food, on sanitation, on vaccination, on medical care. And that is exactly the right idea of the Viksit Bharat. That's what the article is saying. And as I proceed with discussing the details of the article, very good morning, dearest. Golu has come newly, and then Munna has come. So very good morning there. Absolutely. As Ramu tells us beautifully, correct, that if a woman was a deserted woman, then also under a scheme called Niyog, ancient Hindu practice, yeah, so then she could have continued the family line with some other man to give her some kind of security. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yes, Himanshu, I saw you already. Yes. Basically, as Himanshu says, we are trying to redesign the whole welfare structure. The Viksit Bharat Golu, that's very, very true. Correct. And Ramu rightly points out, yesterday in the newspaper, we spoke about the HIS 2026. The Indian government on a pilot mode is trying to experiment with the household income survey. For the first time, we are trying to measure the income of every individual in India, various families across India. This data could help us tomorrow in making the new policy called Universal Basic Income. So let's quickly see from the article, what is this concept? Will it be easy to implement? Will it help us or no? Will it be a very complicated idea? Okay, let's start then. That's correct, Golu. Absolutely. Yes, Ramu. Why not? Today, one article is given on that. We can. So let's proceed. The article starts by saying India now faces massive inequality. There is GDP that has been increasing. The GDP growth is quite strong right now. At the same time, the wealth is with very few people. Yes, we have policies like direct benefit transfer. Good morning, Reshma. I was thinking about you. People have direct benefit transfer. People have employment guarantee from the government. But at the same time, we are seeing that still there are a lot of people who are working in the informal sector. That's one problem. We have so many young people who are working in the GIG sector. We have so many people who are experiencing a mental health disorder. Mental health disorder like depression. Why? Because they are not getting the right kind of jobs. We are looking at communities that are experiencing climate displacement owing to floods, landslides, owing to flash flooding and cloud bursts. Many communities are having to relocate. All these are happening in India, and these are a threat not only to economic well being, these are also a threat to the unity in the country. Very good morning, Kojumba. I thought of Kojumba and Reshma, and both of them are here. Welcome, my dear. Thank you so much, Kojumba. Welcome, my dear. As Deepak says, the direct benefit transfer. Very good. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, Golu. Hypertension, anxiety, depression. Why? Because people are not getting the right jobs. That's correct. Yes. And they are also getting displaced because of climate problems. Correct? In all this background, what if, just like European countries, India also adopts something that's called as UBI, Universal Basic Income? Absolutely, Dipesh. Rising refugee crisis, frustration among the youth, as Sumit says. Absolutely valid points there. Beautifully pointed out by all of you. Is there a solution? Can we adopt a universal basic income? What is universal basic income then? What is this policy all about? UBI is about an unconditional, now please mark my words, it's an unconditional cash transfer in the accounts of various residents of the country given by the government. Sometimes the responsibility is completely on the central government. Sometimes, under cooperative federalism, the states can also share the burden. It can be 80% center, 20% state governments, but it has to be unconditional. No conditions attached. No matter who this citizen is, no matter who this person is, the government will give some basic amount of money to the bank account of that person. This idea looks a very utopian idea. What is a utopian idea? Utopian is like perfect, something that's unlikely to be achieved, imaginatively beautiful. Idea is very utopian, but if it is implemented as a practical policy, it could be very good for India, because UBI means a kind of fixed amount. What is UBI? Unconditional fixed amount that the government prepares to transfer to every citizen, that too regularly. For example, on a monthly basis, or 3 months basis, or every year, without any conditions in return. The government doesn't want any condition in return. The government is just giving you that money as a basic support system. UBI is a simple, universal, unconditional cash transfer that can strengthen income security, that can also reduce exclusion, marginalization, that can recognize unpaid care. It can also be of a great benefit to those women in India who are working as homemakers. Owing to their circumstances, they are not able to earn money, and still they are working very hard to take care of their families. It could be a very good option for them also. It can be a very simple delivery system, because India today is now also becoming digital. Yesterday, I released a video on Maharashtra. Maharashtra has become the first state in India to sign a pact with Elon Musk's company called Starlink. Now, various regions in Maharashtra will receive satellite internet. If we have an infrastructure like that, then everybody will have a bank account, and most people will have an online access to that. So it's a great idea that government transfers some money in your account directly without any conditions in return. It could also help people in the case of job loss. If you remember, yesterday you and I spoke about automation, how machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, these are threatening the jobs of people. Humans might be replaced with machines very soon. In case people lose their jobs, there is an estimation which says at least 45 lakh people might lose their jobs by the end of 2025 itself, across the globe, only because of automation and machine learning, AI technology. To prevent people from such kind of job loss, to prevent people in the case of a disaster, in the case of illness or a sudden death, such money could really give people a lot of support system. What is the objective behind UBI, Universal Basic Income? One, to maintain the dignity of people, to give a basic floor level income, a basic consumption income, so that people don't fall below poverty line. Something similar to what happened in Kerala recently. November 1st, Kerala announced that Kerala is a state in India, the first state in India which has no absolute poverty now, no extreme poverty. And we all know why is it possible? How has it been possible? It is possible because the government is, since the last 4 years, working in mission mode by identifying each and every citizen and giving them some basic food, medicine, employment opportunity. The idea of universal basic income is to give a basic money in every bank account so that nobody falls below the poverty line and people are able to afford at least two basic meals a day. Second idea is to be a shock absorber. In case AI takes away human jobs, in case there is a climate disaster, there is a displacement, people will have something to fall upon. Then at the same time, this system will also reduce any kind of administration leakage. For example, when you give people employment like Manrega, there are middlemen in between, government officers, panchayat level officers. Workers will be in between the government and the people who will enable that system. But if you give a DBT, direct benefit transfer, like the Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar in Bihar, you are directly giving money to the beneficiary's account. To the beneficiary's account. And in that case, what happens? In that case, there is no leakage in between. There is absolutely no leakage of money in between. The amount is directly reaching the beneficiary. So that's a very good way again. It is a very simple method of targeting the beneficiary. Apart from that, it is great because it recognizes unpaid work as well. It improves gender equality. As I said, there are many people in India. Yes, absolutely, Golu. Like we talk about the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Yojana, very, very good, well pointed out there. As Kojumba is saying, the EPEP, correct, in Kerala. Yes, we did speak about that. Absolutely, so Golu, that's correct, Sumedh, yes. That is true, Saurav. It's a very ambitious program. That's why we are calling it utopian. Utopian is something that's too good to be true, that's imaginary. But what if something like that can be implemented? Imagine the benefit it's bringing. No leakage in between, a great deal of respect for women. Again, these are young women who are working to support their families. But they are not working in a formal employment sector. It gives money to those women also. It is about women empowerment and disabling the widespread domestic abuse, the economic dependence of women. Then it is also good because it will perhaps clean the election process also. And why will it clean the election process? Because in India, vote bank politics is very common. Most political parties are able to get votes by promising people some money, some kind of a bribe. Today, if every citizen has basic amount of money in their accounts, perhaps they will make more informed choices when it comes to electoral process. They may not be swayed away by false money promises. At the same time, it is also good because, just as Golu said, it will also take care that all existing policies which are fragmented in nature, for example, Mahila Mukhyamantri scheme, Manrega scheme, then you have so many others like Matritva Vandana is there. Many schemes are already existing. Janani Suraksha scheme, all of them will be combined into one single direct benefit transfer. That's it. And then you don't need any other side scheme. Only one centralized scheme throughout India can be implemented, and irrespective of who you are, you will get some amount of money. That also means we are also fulfilling the plan that we had decided in 1944, the Bombay Plan, that India believes in distributive justice. And look at India's situation. In India today, there is so many welfare policies, but all of them are fragmented. Fragmented. Some are taken care of by state government, some centrally sponsored. There are certain states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, who always feel that they have not been given enough funds from the government. During implementation, there are bureaucratic delays. There is always a leakage and corruption. For example, if you look at the midday meal scheme that was initiated in Tamil Nadu, and today it's common across all the states, where government school children get some free lunch from the government in order to provide for nutrition. If you look at this scheme also, there are many students of mine who have worked in NGOs. And they personally also say that they have been to such situations, they have been to such schools, and they have seen the poor kind of food that is being served. Because often there are people, government officials, teachers themselves who are involved in corruption, stealing of the ration, malpractices like not giving the ration to the desired beneficiary, like the child on the ground. So these things are not good. Direct benefit transfers doesn't mean you have to depend on anyone. Directly you can reach out, so no problem at all. It could be a great situation then by enabling digital delivery systems like Aadhaar, the Jan Dhan Yojana, the DBT footprint. All of that is cheaper also. A direct transfer. Nothing, no extra cost in between is required now. So therefore, it could be a great way that we are empowering our people. A very good case study here could be Seva. I hope everybody has heard about Seva. What is Seva? Self-employment, Self-Employed Women Association, a very important civil society organization that was started in 1972 by a lady called Ila Bhatt. This became one of the first self-help groups in India. Today, it has expanded to a multi-state setup. So many women. From scratch, it started by uniting various women, pottery, dairy, agriculture, all of them came together and started some enterprise. Today, Seva is at the forefront of women empowerment. A very good case study could be Seva. Small projects conducted by Seva in the state of Madhya Pradesh have shown that nutrition, school attendance, and extra income, all of them increase when people on the ground are engaged with. Economic benefits could be tremendous because of the universal basic income scheme. For example, poverty reduction is possible. People will get support to have basic nutritious food. At the same time, it will also help in adjusting those people who are losing jobs because of reduction in agriculture output, because of lack of job opportunities in urban areas, structural unemployment. It could help people who are losing jobs due to cyclical unemployment, automation and AI. It will also help those people who are really willing to study further. There are so many people who are underemployed. They know they have to improve their qualification, but they don't have time to do that because they are working. If they have a constant income support, they can probably study more, and India could become a more skilled workforce also. It is also a great way to remove all the overlapping welfare schemes by creating one single scheme. It reduces administrative effort also for the government, but there are certain fallouts, there are certain problems here also. And what are the certain problems here? One problem is financial cost is tremendous. For example, if you start transferring a minimum of 7,620 rupees per person per year, you know how much does that become? It is coming out to be 5% of GDP, and that's a lot of money. Look at the cost involved here. If you are even spending 7,000 rupees per year to every bank account, it comes out to be 5% of the GDP, and that is a lot of cost. That's very expensive for us to afford. And that could mean we will fall behind so many points in the GDP if we cover everybody. Second thing is a universal payment system means you are giving money to everyone, rich or the poor. So that means further perhaps you will create that inequality again until you only identify the real needy people. Again, the creamy layer concept will come. Just like when you talk about the other backward classes in India, SEBC. We give them 27% reservation all India, but that is divided between the creamy and the non-creamy layer because we do not want the already well-off people to take the benefit of reservation. Today, if we apply blindly a universal basic income scheme to everyone, perhaps the richer people will take away the more benefit. And the real people may not be able to have any improvement as such because already they are under debt. So that could further create inequality if we do not look into the concept of proportion. We have to be very proportionate in giving benefits to people. Now, look at inflation. Inflation is again a reality. Over a period of time, the prices of goods and services will keep increasing. How much money will you keep on increasing in direct benefit transfer? Maybe in 2025 you give 7,000. Perhaps by 2028 that money will not be enough. Maybe it's not enough. So then you will have to revise it, irrespective of whether your national income is increasing or not. Then it could also create political pressure. For example, if a political party chooses to transfer 7,000 And if the political party at the center changes or at the state level changes, the new political party will not be in any position to remove the amount of money promised. It could lose its popularity among people. If it increases, it could be seen as an electoral jumla. It could be seen as an electoral way of winning people's attention. That's again a problem. And ultimately, it further creates a new theory of dependency theory. Those who have studied sociology or psychology would know. It would create dependency theory. It makes people lazy. It makes people lazy. It could also exacerbate, it could also increase the problem of secondary poverty. I hope everyone is clear with secondary poverty. I have explained earlier as well. Yes, Dipesh Kojumba. Absolutely, Sumit. PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Dipesh is saying Ladli Bahina Yojana. That's correct. That's correct. Okay, that's very true, Kojumba. That is the reason why reservation doesn't always have benefits. That's true. That's true, Rishi. Correct. So everybody has a different viewpoint when it comes to reservation. But talking about universal basic income scheme, see, it could create the problem of secondary poverty. What is secondary poverty? I have told you earlier also. Absolute or extreme poverty means people have no money, no income, no job. They are below poverty line. Something that Kerala has removed today. Kerala is successful today. Now there is no absolute poverty. But secondary poverty is another concept. Secondary poverty happens when people have money, but they do not spend their money on food, education, and some kind of beneficial thing. They use this money for drug abuse, alcohol, and gambling. They are wasting their money. That is the problem of secondary poverty, where you misuse the money that you have. It's very common in certain vulnerable communities, in the slum dwelling population, owing to the culture that slowly creeps in. And that's the culture of dependency. Universal basic scheme could create a culture of dependency where people become lazy and people feel the government is there to take care of us. Why should we worry? Why should we work hard? The government is there for us. So let it be. Absolutely, as Ramu defines it beautifully for us. When somebody doesn't has the money to fulfill their basic needs, but they do not do that because they waste all that money in other unimportant things like gambling, alcohol, drug abuse, entertainment, and all of that. It could lead to the problem of secondary poverty and dependency culture among people. At the same time, it discourages people to work hard. It also undermines public services because UBI can just be a supplement to existing public services. It cannot replace essential public services. It cannot do that, which means it's an additional expenditure on the shoulder of the government. It will create to more financial pressure either this way or that way. Perhaps it could also result in a higher taxation tomorrow. That we don't know. So is there a method to achieve this UBI? Yes, there are methods. One clear-cut method is that you relocate and you rationalize existing subsidies. Remove all the subsidies that do not work properly. Remove all those welfare schemes that have not performed well. Just integrate them into a consolidated umbrella single welfare scheme. Second thing is adopt more progressive taxation. What is progressive taxation? Taxation that increases with the increase of income. People who earn more will pay more tax. People who earn less will pay less tax. It's the opposite of regressive system. In India, we already have progressive income tax. So we have to further promote that. You can increase taxation for the very high income brackets people. That makes sense. For example, recently when GST was revised by the government, the goods and services tax, multi-slabs were integrated into simply 3 to 4 slabs. Today, the government has created a new slab called 40% and above. That is for luxury and sin goods, such as tobacco, alcohol, luxury cars. That makes sense. That will definitely be a good idea because people who can afford luxury can also afford to pay 40% plus GST. But by removing the GST on basic items, basic food, basic snacks, basic toiletries, bringing them to 5% or even 0% is a great initiative. That is something that has to be done. At the same time, rather than implementing UBI all across India at once, which is unlikely, we can experiment that on a pilot basis in few states. If it is successful, then perhaps we can cover it pan-India slowly. It can be a hybrid approach. It can help existing schemes, but It can definitely not remove the existing schemes. At the same time, you have to first enable digital literacy, like what Maharashtra did yesterday by signing up the pact with Starlink. You have to do something like that. If people across various states are not digitally educated, then how will they even use the money that is coming to their bank account? In India, there is a lot of communities today who are still unbanked. They do not have any banking access, neither do they have awareness. What is the benefit then? So you have to first educate people in financial literacy and digital literacy. That's when such schemes can work properly. And then apart from that, you also have to put strong safeguards like anti-fraud mechanism, periodic monitoring and auditing to make sure the money is actually being transferred and there is no ghost account. The money is going to a real account, not a phantom account, not a ghost account. Yes, absolutely, Ramu. 15, 18, and 40% slab rates. Yes, that's what I spoke about. Correct. Adopting more unnecessary schemes will only add to the financial pressure of the government. That's correct, Kojumba. Correct. Yes, that's what I spoke about. Very good. So now, last but not the least, please work on cooperative federalism. Already there is so much conflict between the center and the states, sometimes due to finance commission allocation, sometimes due to welfare schemes. Recently, because of the position of the governor in opposition rule states, at least we have to create some kind of a smooth cooperation between center and the state governments to make sure that such schemes are properly implemented. Without center and the state being on the same page, it's very difficult for implementation to happen. So that is one thing, right? Ultimately, there is a huge risk of exclusion here. For those who are well connected with online transactions, who have a functioning bank account, who are aware, will get the benefit. But for those who are illiterate digitally, will probably be abused by others. Their bank accounts will be faked and the money will go to somebody else only. Especially old people and women are at major risk here. And at the same time, authentication is very important. First, do a proper Aadhaar based authentication of bank accounts. Only then initiate such a transfer to make sure no money is going to a wrongful account. These are all the suggestions given by the article. So for GS paper 2, social justice, and for GS paper 3, science and technology, Aadhaar linking, bank account, digital literacy, let's understand what is the concept of UBI. Why is it important? Can it really help Indians? Think among all these perspectives. Think of GS paper 4 also. Is it ethical to create a constant progressive taxation? Why are so many Indians shifting to the Middle East today? Because they feel Indian taxation policies are very ruthless. The higher you earn, the more you pay. So for the higher income bracket, sometimes it is very unfair because they are also getting by and large the same quality of public service, and in return they are having to pay a very heavy tax on their income. Could this mean brain drain from India? Think of all those perspectives about this article. Also think of whether integrating the existing schemes into a universal UBI makes sense. Do you think we can seriously create pan India digital literacy in a mission mode and make sure that the scheme is doing well? Think about all that with regards to this article. And quickly, let's solve a question also. Very good morning, Bulbul. Yes, absolutely. That's correct. MRKK, that's correct. The free bus scheme in South India, that's true. Just for women, that definitely enables women mobility. And Kojumba, that's correct. Digital crimes and cyber frauds are becoming too much. Recently, we saw an article about how many crores of rupees are getting wasted in digital arrest. So all these are also the risks. Now quickly the question, consider the following statements regarding UBI, Universal Basic Income. 1. UBI provides a regular, unconditional cash transfer to all citizens irrespective of their income or employment status. Dipesh Reshma have answered. 2. In India, pilot studies such as SEVA, Self-Employed Women Association by Ela Bhatt 1972, experiment in Madhya Pradesh have shown improvements in nutrition, school attendance, and earnings among beneficiaries. And 3, the primary advantage of UBI lies in targeted approach, where benefits are given only to those who are identified as poor through means testing, by thorough testing. And absolutely these answers are valid. So well done, Dipesh, Reshma, Golu, Saurav, Ramu, Sumed and Himanshu. B is the right answer. 3 is not correct. The whole idea of UBI is to give some amount of money, for example, 7,000 per year to every account throughout India, irrespective of whether someone is poor or rich. That's why it is called universal basic income. Indeed, a very ambitious utopian idea, but that's what the article is trying to say. So that's correct, Kojumba, and that's absolutely correct, MRKK. Correct. Yes, all others are incorrect. Well done, well answered. Next article is also page number 10. It is editorial, and this is talking about special intensive revision exercise. We recently saw the controversy in Bihar election that after 21 years, SIR took place in Bihar. And once the intensive revision took place, we also understood how so many problems were there in the electoral roll making. Thousands of voters were experiencing exclusion, particularly migrant workers and women. And thousands of fake numbers, thousands of ghost registrations were there of people who did not even exist. Today, as Bihar is almost experiencing the election happening, the results will come out soon. A big question is left behind that now the Election Commission of India has announced 12 more states and UTs in India will soon start their SIR. And slowly, all states and UTs will also have to go for SIR because we understand that it is a must to periodically keep revising your electoral roll, without which democracy has no meaning. A good question today becomes about Assam. What to do about Assam? Is it logical to conduct an SIR in Assam? Or allowing Assam to go for a special intensive revision? Could it mean giving the Election Commission of India the authority that it does not have? Remember, the Election Commission of India, Article 324 of the Constitution, has the responsibility of conducting free and fair elections in India. It does not have the responsibility of deciding who is the citizen of India and who is not. Because citizenship is not decided by Election Commission, it is decided by Citizenship Act 1955 and it is subject to parliamentary legislation. Why are we allowing the Election Commission of India to take the final call as to who is the citizen and who is not? That's what the article debates about. So therefore, looking at the topic, it is GS paper 2 UPSC because it is polity and governance. We are also looking at part 2 of the Indian Constitution, that is citizenship, primarily articles 5 to articles 11. Second part of the Constitution, citizenship. Correct, Golu. Article 324. That's correct, Dipesh. That's a very logical idea, Dipesh and Reshma. For a large population like us, targeted beneficiaries will only help. Universal account is a very ambitious idea. I agree. Now let's quickly see what this article says. Article is saying Election Commission of India is presently negotiating. It is considering that let us conduct a special intensive revision on a pan-India basis. All round the country, we will have a special intensive revision. Electoral rolls will be revised thoroughly. But the opposition parties are saying this idea of conducting a pan-India SIR is nothing. It is nothing but it is a backdoor NRC. It is a backdoor National Population Register remaking. National Register of Citizens is once again trying to be created by the government. So according to the opposition parties, conducting SIR all over India is nothing but the government's attempt at doing backdoor NRC, creating a new, silent, secretive National Register of Citizens. Especially if you look at Assam, if you conduct SIR in Assam, it will be absolutely like once again trying to create a new NRC by which illegal immigrants will be recognized and the government will use this policy to perpetuate atrocities against minorities. That's the idea coming from opposition. This controversy today has raised a major legal and administrative debate in India. Whether ECI, Election Commission of India, Article 324 of the Constitution, has the right to determine who is the citizen and who is not. Who is the citizen and who is not. So let us look at Election Commission of India. Empowered under Article 324 of the Indian Constitution to supervise, conduct, direct, control elections. It has the chief duty of preparing, also revising the voter ID list, preparing and revising the electoral rolls under Representation of People Act 1950 as well as Representation of People Act 1951. However, the citizenship in India is not to be determined by Election Commission. That is not its jurisdiction. Because in India, citizenship it is exclusively determined and governed by the Citizenship Act of India 1955. Any doubts about who is the citizen, who is not the citizen, any doubts about acquiring, naturalization, registration, alienation, discarding of citizenship, all of that must be referred to a competent authority and not to be decided by the Election Commission of India. Now look at the condition of Bihar today. In Bihar, SIR was done in a pilot mode because for 20 years no revision had been done. And all the individuals were asked by the Election Commission of India to submit a limited proof of their citizenship. Time was not there. Situation was that of emergency. The Supreme Court said, as an exceptional situation, allow Aadhaar card as one of the valid proofs, as one of the 11 valid proofs for people to have their name on the electoral roll. And the Election Commission of India also agreed. So it told the people in Bihar that submit at least some proof, some basic proof of your citizenship, especially to those people whose name is not there, especially to those people whose names were not present on electoral rolls that were prepared before 2003. So those people were asked that submit something, at least some valid proof of your citizenship. But the problem is that citizenship falls under Citizenship Act authority. So why did Election Commission of India tell the people in Bihar that submit at least some proof of your citizenship? Does that make any sense? At the same time, in India, electoral roll is only meant for the voters who are above 18 years of age. That's the principle of universal adult franchisee, that every individual who is above 18 years of age can give their vote. That is something, that is a principle that we agree to when it comes to election. But citizenship determination is a very different concept. By saying that everybody who is above 18 has a right to give the vote, it doesn't mean that everybody who is above 18 will give the vote. Only citizens will give the vote. But who is to decide that who is the citizen or not? Election Commission of India is not the body who can decide that. Because if Election Commission of India at the state level starts deciding that, it will lead to selective targeting. It can lead to disenfranchisement of so many people, like it was happening in Bihar already. Now, if you look at situation of Assam, it is very unique already. It is a very different situation. Because in Assam, the reality is very different. In Assam, we have already completed a full-scale NRC exercise. In Assam, already a full state national registration of citizens has been done. It is completed under the monitoring and supervision of the Supreme Court of India. It is done already. Especially because in Assam, this new NRC exercise was launched from 2013 to 2019. What was launched? NRC exercise, National Register of Citizens, already been done under the supervision of Supreme Court. Why was it done? It was done according to the Assam Accord. It was done according to the Assam Accord 1985 and Section 6A of the Citizenship Act. Under both these, the Assam Accord 1985 and under Section 6A of the Citizenship Act, we have already completed the NRC in Assam, monitored by the Supreme Court from 2013 to 2019. Already we have seen 3.30 crore applications, out of which 3.11 crore were identified as valid citizens included in the voter list, and 19.6 lakh people have already been excluded. It was conducted by a massive group, by a big group of 52,000 officials who worked door to door, ground on ground. Government spent about 1600 crore rupees in this exercise already. The final result was also published on 31st August 2019. So today, back in 2025, why do we need a special intensive revision for Assam again? Don't you think it's an unnecessary duplicate exercise? Reopening of citizen debate in Assam through once again conducting an SIR, a special intensive revision, will only mean duplicating of an exercise that is legal and it has been completed on August 2019 already. Second, it is about contradicting Supreme Court's authority. And third, it will also create a lot of fear and insecurity among the citizens of Assam that once again maybe the minorities will and could be attacked. Now, look at Section 6A of the Citizenship Act. This is only unique to Assam. Very good. Just as somebody mentioned, Dipesh said that Section 6A is only applicable in the case of Assam. Section 6A, Citizenship Act, only applicable to Assam situation. It originated only because of Assam Accord 1985. That's one thing. Second thing is the purpose is to identify migrants from Bangladesh and to differentiate them from residents and citizens of India living in Assam. It is very special because 24th March 1971 is the criteria we use for eligibility in case of Assami citizenship. It is very different from other parts of India as per Citizenship Act Part 2 of the Constitution. In Assam, we see the date as 1971 March 24. Whether who came before that and who migrated after that. And it was upheld by the Supreme Court in 2024 as legal and valid. And what is the implication of that? Implication is that in Assam, citizens follow a very different historical and logical protocol. The citizenship in Assam is determined through a different route altogether. It cannot be applicable in the case of other states. So the rules that are followed in other states can also not be applied to Assam. Today, can Election Commission of India conduct a legitimate SIR in Assam again in 2025 by spending so much money, spending so much manpower? Why do you need to do that when there is already an NRC, National Register of Citizens, that is valid and it is existing, created as recently as August 29, by keeping in mind the Assam Accord, by keeping in mind the Section 6A of the Citizenship Act exclusively meant for Assam? Already we have determined who were the migrants and removed them. Already we have identified who are the citizens and kept them in the register. So why do you need to redo the SIR? That too, it was done under Supreme Court supervision. So what are we trying to do? Definitely we are trying to reach a situation where Election Commission of India is trying to interfere in a matter that doesn't belong to its jurisdiction. Because Election Commission of India's SIR in Assam will invalidate the logic of NRC. It will create administrative wastage and chaos. It will also create social tensions, perhaps. It could create some communal violence too. And why is the opposition saying it is like a backdoor NRC? Because under SIR, under Special Intensive Revision, same documents are being required as the documents that were required under NRC. Already people have submitted them in 2019. Now, why do you want them to submit them back again? It will mean targeted exclusion of some people. It could mean a political agenda. It could mean voter rights suppression. It could mean politicization of citizenship determination, which is not the jurisdiction of ECI. So overall, let's understand in the current politics, in the current debate, that citizenship is a constitutional issue. It is to be determined by the Citizenship Act or any parliamentary initiative. Definitely ECI cannot act as the topmost tribunal and determine who is a citizen, who is not a citizen. Therefore, the government of India today also says there is a very big difference between anybody above 18 years being eligible to vote and deciding who is that eligible person or not, deciding who is that person or not. In Assam, we have already conducted an NRC. exercise. It was thoroughly done by spending crores of rupees by thousands of people on ground. So today, once again, a revision in that electoral rule doesn't demand you to create one more de facto citizenship verification for Assam. It is a very sensitive region, sensitive to migration, sensitive to communal politics, to ethnic debate. Why do we want to open up one more episode that could create so much more internal insecurity? That's what the article talks about. Absolutely. There are so many people. Yes, because citizenship can be determined by the government and constitution. I agree. But Supreme Court then does not have any right to say you are a migrant or you are a citizen. That Supreme Court cannot do. It doesn't have the constitutional authority to do that. That's the problem here. Yes, Operation Surge, as Dipesh is mentioning, in rest while Bangladesh, in today's Bangladesh, correct. That's correct. So ECI today needs to follow its own duty protocol rather than trying to step into something that doesn't belong to its domain. So quickly the question, consider the following statements regarding SIR of electoral roll and the NRC in Assam. 1. The Election Commission of India has the legal authority to determine the citizenship status of individuals during electoral revision. 2. The National Register of Citizens in Assam is prepared under the supervision of Supreme Court of India and it was concluded in 2019. And 3. Section 6A of Citizenship Act 1955 provides a special legal framework for determining citizenship in Assam, and that is different from the rest of India. So which of these statements do you think are correct? Oh, that's wonderful to know, Kojumba. Thank you for that. Okay, Reshma has answered and so has Saurav. And both of them say that the answer is B. Is that the case? Absolutely, it is correct. So that's correct, Soham and Sumed as well. Why? Because first is not correct. The Election Commission of India does not have the legal authority to determine citizenship status. It can only be done by the Citizenship Act 1955 or any other parliamentary legislation corresponding to Part 2 of the Indian Constitution that deals with citizenship, Articles 5 to Article 11. Correct. That's correct, Ramu. That's correct, Kochumpa. Very well answered. Yes, Golu. That's correct. That's correct, MKK. That's correct. Second and third are valid statements. So well done. Now, the next article is also editorial, but a short one. We are talking about the issue of surrogacy. Now, surrogacy in India is a social issue. It is also a very ethical issue. So I would say this particular article here relates to GS paper 2. Yes, because we are looking at women as vulnerable communities. It is also GS paper 4 because surrogacy being valid or invalid, moral or immoral, ethical or unethical is quite a part of GS paper 4 ethics. You can get a question on that for sure. A 10 marks question or a 20 marks case study. What does the article say? Now the article is trying to say that recently in the Supreme Court of India, a petition was made. A request was made to the Supreme Court of India, and the petition is challenging. The petition is trying to challenge some restrictions under the Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021, especially restrictions created under Surrogacy Act 2021, Section 4, 3, C part 2. There is a recent, yes, very good, Dipesh. That's the idea here. So we are trying to say, situation is that in the Supreme Court of India, a petition has been made. This petition is challenging restrictions on surrogacy, restrictions that are found in the Surrogacy Act 2021, especially Section 4.3(c)(2). And what are these restrictions? These restrictions prohibit, they stop couples from accessing surrogacy for a second child if they already have another existing child. So if you already have a child who is healthy and normal, you cannot have a surrogacy for a second child. That's the law. Under the Surrogacy Act 2021, it restricts surrogacy only to the first child, the first offspring. But the petition made in Supreme Court today is saying that This is creating a situation of secondary infertility. What is infertility? When you cannot have a child. Today, this petition says by denying people surrogacy for a second baby, it means that you are trying to create secondary infertility among people. You are forcing them to have only one kid and not choose to have another kid. The petition also says if a couple is unable to have a baby naturally, for the second pregnancy, is it not their right under Article 21 of the Constitution to have another child? Who is the government? Who is the Surrogacy Act to stop them and restrict them only to one child? So therefore, the petition is coming from a couple that really demands surrogacy right for the second child also, saying that it is highly unreasonable of the Surrogacy Act to argue that only one child should be permitted through surrogacy. What is the legal framework of the whole episode? Now, the legal framework is definitely about the Surrogacy Act. The purpose of the Surrogacy Act is to regulate altruistic surrogacy. Now, do we understand what's the meaning of the word altruistic? Altruistic. Now, I'm sure altruistic is a word that somebody who has studied sociology, psychology, philosophy should know, even polity. Altruistic means something that is done with a good intention, something for the well-being of another person. Yes, Golu, that's correct. Something for the well-being of another person. Right? That's correct. Akash, that's correct. It's not allowed in India. Yes, that's valid. So now what is altruistic? When you think of somebody is good. In India, the objective of the Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021 is ultimately what? It is to promote altruistic surrogacy, to help those who are infertile, to help them have a child and become parents. The idea is also to prevent commercial exploitation of women. It's a very, very valid UPSC essay title also. You can get a topic on essay writing on surrogacy, either in paper A, compulsory, Indian language, or in paper B, compulsory English language in mains, or in the mains essay paper of 250 marks. You can also get a topic on surrogacy. You can get it on the ethical dimensions of surrogacy. In GS paper 4 also you can get. Right? So the idea behind Surrogacy Regulation Act is to promote altruistic surrogacy, to help infertile couples. It also promotes to prevent commercial exploitation of poor and vulnerable women. It also is about controlling the mushrooming of fertility clinics in India. So many clinics are booming. IVF, in vitro fertilization, latest technology. That could also pose a danger to women's health. To control that also is one idea behind Surrogacy Act 2021, that if you cannot have a child, rather than repeatedly exposing yourself to dangerous procedures, you can opt for surrogacy, for your first child at least, in a very ethical way. But there is a part of Surrogacy Regulation Act under Section 4, 3C2. And this section says that couples must not have an already existing surviving child, either biological or adopted or through surrogacy. If they already have a living surviving child, whether it's their own baby, whether adopted or whether coming through surrogacy, they cannot have surrogacy for second child. But there is an exception. If the existing child is having some kind of a physical or mental abnormality, if the child is challenged in some way, disabled in some way, or the child has a life-threatening condition, in that case, yes, the couple can have a second child also through surrogacy. But except in that situation, for a normal couple, it is only permitted once, only for the first child. It is quite in line with the Assisted Reproductive Technologies Act 2021, which is also called the Surrogacy Act. So Surrogacy Act can also be called Assisted Reproductive Technology Act. That's the valid point here. The purpose is also to regulate fertility clinics. The purpose is to ensure that we are using assistive reproduction in a very ethical manner. But today the petition is arguing against that. Today the petition is debating that it could lead to secondary infertility. What if we have a child but we really want to have another one? and we are not able to conceive naturally? Why should the court or why should the government decide that we should only have one healthy child? Sometimes women develop conditions like diabetes, thyroids, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, or age related factors, lifestyle stress related infertility. In that case, who is the court to decide whether she cannot have a child now? Is it not snatching away your fundamental right under Article 21, the right to life and the right to personal liberty? Similarly, the very famous Supreme Court case from 27, the Puttaswamy versus Union of India case. Even in the Puttaswamy Union of India case, the court has upheld the right to privacy. The right to make private reproductive choices should be covered through the legislation in the Puttaswamy verdict, which is also called the Right to Privacy Supreme Court case. Then why are couples being denied surrogacy for second child today? But the government argues otherwise. The government says surrogacy is not as easy as it sounds. It uses the body of another woman, and she is also a human being. You are using the body of another lady. So you cannot say that it is coming under your right to privacy or Article 21. When you go for surrogacy by giving money, the lady who is doing it also has a right to life and liberty under Article 21. Could it also relate to the ethical debate about Article 23? There are some women who are, because of poverty, abandonment, or compulsion, or because of trafficking, they are being made to do surrogacy. What about that? Does it not contradict with Article 23 of the Constitution of India that does not allow any kind of human trafficking for any commercial purpose? That is also something that comes in your mind. Therefore, the law says the idea is not to force people to have a child. The idea is to stop the practice of commercial, unethical surrogacy. Otherwise, those who have money and those who can afford children can also do surrogacy for the third or the fourth child. But is it valid to promote an industry that is based on exploitation of a woman's body? Is it not corresponding to Article 23 of the Constitution? Think about it. Now, this article is not mentioning Article 23. It is only discussing Article 21. But I am telling you, is it not also related to Article 23 of the Constitution? Yes, it is. So, therefore, the court is saying there is a difference between reasonably restricting something and forcefully restricting something. Court today says this restriction is not about creating secondary infertility. It is about creating some kind of ethics when it comes to a sensitive matter like surrogacy. So, the government is also now saying that if there is a couple who has adopted technology like freezing their embryos. Now, there are some people who decide to have a child at a later age in life. They always have the option of going to a hospital and freezing their embryo. So, they conceive and they freeze that embryo. And they can later gestate that child whenever they are prepared to do that. So the Supreme Court is saying we are not interfering with that. If somebody has already frozen their embryo and tomorrow they want a surrogate mother to carry that pregnancy, we can allow that. It is not like we are not allowing that, but that should be the first pregnancy. So we have flexibility here when it comes to interpreting laws. Today it is a very ethical debate. The government is also valid in saying that if we do not control mushrooming of fertility clinics, we are trying to play with women's health. We are also not protecting vulnerable poor women who can be forced into commercial surrogacy. But the petitioners are also valid in saying that it could create the problem of secondary fertility. It could create a problem for those who really want to have a second child but owing to some physical limitation cannot have. So petitioners are saying this law is very arbitrary because in other countries there is no such law. In several countries, surrogacy is allowed even in the case of secondary fertility. If people cannot have a second child, they are allowed. They are allowed to have surrogacy for that also, provided ethical safeguards are maintained. So that's why it is becoming a very controversial issue right now. Yes, many movies also sort of. That is true. That is true. So adoption could be a very good choice. That is the broad lesson people should learn from this episode. And now quickly the next article. It's a good one. It comes from page number 1, the front page, and it's a very promising article. It says, in Bihar, as the assembly elections are going on, the good news is that highest ever voter turnout has been witnessed. Highest ever. voter turnout has been seen. Because in the earlier elections, in 2000 assembly elections, the voter turnout was 62 point some percentage. Today it is 64.66%. People showing this much enthusiasm, despite all the problems and despite all the complications of SIR, is a very, very positive development. Now, next article is a very interesting one again. It says the central government has said, also a front page article, that there is a difference between right to vote and freedom to vote. So it's an interpretation of GS paper 2, polity and governance, particularly the debate between fundamental rights and fundamental duties. How many fundamental duties do we have in the Constitution? Can anybody tell me? And which committee was responsible for formulating the fundamental duties? Does anybody know that? That's correct, Reshma. Anybody knows that? How many fundamental duties are there? 10 or 11? 10 or 11. When was the last one added? And which committee created the fundamental duties? A very important question for prelims. So this article here is a debate between fundamental duties and fundamental rights. The Supreme Court has observed. Very good. Absolutely. 11. Very good, Reshma Ramu. Correct. Correct, my dear. Correct, Rishi. Golu. Correct. Yes. And which committee added that? Let me know that also. So this article, let's quickly come to the article. Swaran Singh Committee. Very good, Reshma. Absolutely. 11 added by Swaran Singh Committee. Very good. Very good. As Ramu says, absolutely. 86th Amendment Act. 2012. Beautiful. Very good. Excellent. That's correct, Sumedh, Rishi, Ramu, Sitaram, Saurabh. Very good. Correct, MKK. Very good. Swaran Singh Committee. So do remember that. Very, very good. So now coming back to the article, the Supreme Court has expressed that there is a very big difference between right to vote and duty to vote. A right is the fundamental freedom that you get. A duty is an obligation that you have to fulfill in a democracy. Yes, Golu. Now, Supreme Court is right now listening to a petition that has been made under Section 53(2) of the Representation of People's Act 1951 and Rule number 11, along with two separate forms that are called as Form 21 and Form 21B of the Conduct of Election Rules. Conduct of Election Rules 1961. There are three things we are covering here. One, and top notch, is that Supreme Court is hearing a petition right now. A petition that has been challenged in the Supreme Court against Section 53(2) of the Representation of People Act 1951, also against Forms 21B of Conduct of Election Rules 1961. All these provisions are relating to an officer called returning officer. Which officer? Returning officer. Returning officer. Very good. Okay. Yes, Ramu, that's correct. The 11th duty regarding educational opportunities. So if you know so much, then quickly also tell me which fundamental right of the Constitution is right to education. In which year was it added? Through which amendment was it added? You can let me know that also quickly. Very good. Very good, Kojumba. Absolutely. That's correct. Correct, Ramu. Correct, Kojumba. Very good. Okay. Now coming back to the article. Article is talking about the returning officer, RO. All these provisions we discussed right now. 53(2) section of Representation of People Act, Form 2121B of the Code of Conduct of Election Rules 1961. All of these, yes. Now, all these relate to the returning officer. And who is a returning officer? A returning officer is a government official. A returning officer is a government official who is appointed by the Election Commission of India to conduct elections in a particular parliamentary constituency or in an assembly constituency. What's the duty of an RO? The duty is to manage the election process entirely in the constituency right from the time the nominations are made until the results are declared. The petition in the Supreme Court today is trying to argue The petition in Supreme Court today is trying to argue that this duty of RO is denying voters the chance to select the option called nota, none of the above. Sometimes you may choose to elect a political party. Sometimes you may choose to elect none. You think none of them can be chosen by you. In that case, the voter has the right to press nota. None of the above. But the RO, who has the responsibility of conducting the election until declaration of the result, sometimes what he does is like he declares any candidate as a winner candidate in case there is a vacancy available, or in case the amount of seats are matching the number of candidates, automatically some candidates are considered as selected to the post. But this is invalid because it defeats the purpose of nota. Nota means the people are refusing this candidate to form the government. Then why does RO nominate them? Why does RO allow them to fill the position? Supreme Court says right to vote is about the fundamental right, a right created by the government, by the parliament, that people, if they want, can vote. For anybody they want, they can vote. But freedom of voting, freedom to vote, is coming under Article 19, the right to freedom, Article 1A, the right to free speech and expression. That is your choice. You can vote for anybody. If you think you don't want to vote for anybody, don't vote. Don't vote. It's your right. I can choose to vote for the party. I can also choose not to vote for the party. What's wrong in that? That is why the nota is available. Nota means I have disapproved this candidate from forming the government or from filling up a political post. That means in the constitution, you have the right to vote, but you also have a right to discard or reject a candidate. You also have a right to choose not to vote against any political party. This is the argument right now. So why exactly is section 53(2) debatable? Because section 53(2) says if there is only one candidate who is contesting for a seat, if only one candidate is contesting for a seat, the RO in India declares the candidate as elected. That is the law. If there is a candidate, but he is the only candidate who is contesting for a given seat, there is no other opponent. No other opponent, only one seat, one candidate. What does RO do? RO will declare that this person has won under section 53(2) of the Representation of People Act 1951. Today, the petitioners are saying, how is this even logical? Without a proper voting taking place, without a proper procedure being done, why are you declaring the candidate as elected, even if he is the only candidate standing on the ground? But what is the logic? People have not elected for him. The petitioners are saying citizens must also be given the right to use nota, even if there is one candidate. For example, only one candidate is there, but I don't want to select him or her. I can press nota there also. What kind of compulsion is that? That only one person is there, so you will have to vote for him. Or what kind of compulsion is there that nobody else is there, only one candidate is standing, so RO will nominate him as the winner? That doesn't make any sense. Even if there is one, for one post, let the post go vacant. But please listen to what people want. People should decide whether he or she should sit in that post or not. So even if there is one candidate, the RO has no right under section 53(2) of the Representation of People Act to select him as the winner. He should be rejected if people are using nota. And people have a right to use nota under Article 15, under Article 19(1)(a), right to freedom of speech and expression. Denying people the right to use nota is also violating Article 19(1)(a), the right to free speech and expression, because nota is also a form of expression when you want to reject the candidate, even if he or she is the only candidate standing on the ground. Nota is a form of expression, because democracy is not only about selecting people. Democracy is also about saying no. Democracy is also about exercising your choice if you want to say no. So what has Supreme Court, what has the Election Commission of India said on this? Election Commission of India has very beautifully agreed. It says that is true. Nota should be used as the freedom of choice. One candidate also should be subjected to the choice of nota. And nota is not only symbolic, nota is also about a proper rejection. So what is happening then? conducting any kind of election in a case where a seat is uncontested will not solve any purpose. So rather let the seat go vacant, or otherwise let people use nota, or allow other people also to participate. So one candidate, one seat has no democratic value. So quickly the question. It is about right to dissent. Absolutely. The right to say no. It is equally a part of democracy, Dipesh. That's valid. Valid. And yes, going back to the previous question, absolutely it is Article 21A of the Constitution, and that is what we call as the right to education. And yes, it was added in 2002. That's correct. Somebody said 2012. No, 2002 it was added as the 86th Amendment Act, the right to education for children from 6 to 14 years of age. That's valid. Very correct. Now, quickly the question, consider the following statements. Answers are coming. 1. The right to vote in India is a statutory right, guaranteed under Representation of People Act 1951. 2. Freedom of voting, including the right to use nota, is considered a part of fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression, Article 19(1)(a). 3. Under Section 53(2), the Representation of People Act 1951, if the number of candidates equals the number of seats, the RO must conduct polling before declaring result. So which of these statements are valid in that case? Golu and Soham and Dipesh and Saurav and Reshma, Akash, Sitaram, Kojumba have answered, but there is a dissent in the answer also. Some people are saying the answer is A, while some are saying that the answer is C. Is the second statement valid or not? That's the key argument here. Second statement is valid or not? So, which is the right answer then, Ramu? What is the confusion? Let's wait and see then which is the right answer till the last slide. Then we will interpret it properly. Now, next article is about census operation. We all know in India, census will now happen from 2026 formally. It is pending since 2020. It's pending since 2011. Since then, we have not had any fresh census. Let's also remember that 2026 and 2027 census is going to be India's first digital census. What? India's first digital census is going to happen now. And that's the exciting news. For that, now the pre-testing phase has already started. The pre-testing phase in the form of house listing and house operations. A total of 30 questions will be asked to the respondents. The enumerators, including block development officers, government school teachers, officers, will be collecting data door to door, but through the Google Play Store digital layout map. Because for the first time, we are having a fully digital census. These apps are available on Android and Apple phones both, so that most people can participate. Now, there are some controversies here also. For example, what about those who are in the fear of their data being leaked and used for commercial purpose? What about those who are not willing to participate in the digital mode? All those questions are valid. But as of now, let's remember the testing phase has started for 2027 census, the first digital census that we are expecting to happen in India now. Now, the next one is about cyber security. Yesterday itself, we were talking about cyber security. Yes, maybe it is incorrect, Rishi. That's correct. Let's just see within 2 slides. Now it's almost over. The next article is about a new concept introduced in the newspaper. It's called GPS spoofing. What is it called? GPS spoofing. Now we all know ever since the Air India tragedy happened, people are afraid of flying. Air flying using aircrafts is also becoming quite risky, I would say, event. It is becoming a very controversial event about safety, protocols, and all of that. Now, in that, a new threat has emerged. UPSC GS Paper 3, Science, Technology, Cyber Security. We often talk about cyber crimes. We often say that today India has, yesterday, in fact, if you remember, India and Israel have signed a major defense pact, and one of the areas of that defense pact is to share technology towards cyber security. This article is saying nowadays, in the last 1 week, a new trend has emerged. All the aeroplanes that are flying inside or outside the Delhi airport are experiencing a severe GPS spoofing. What is GPS spoofing? What is happening is that GPS signals are all becoming completely messed up. There are false GPS signals that are being transmitted, and these are misleading aircraft navigation systems. The pilots are reporting that sometimes aircraft position coordinates are faulty, they are completely getting disturbed. There are false alarms about that there is an obstacle in front of you. Pilots will get a false alarm that there is an obstacle in front of you. It is called false terrain alarm, that there is some blockage, when in reality, there is no such blockage at all. Phantom blockages are being reported. The issue has affected so many flights within 60 nautical miles radius of Delhi airport. That's a very, very popular location, but at the same time, in this location, too many such issues are going on. Today, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation and the Ministry of Civil Aviation have understood that this is quite of an emergency situation because GPS spoofing is a cyber attack. It is a cyber attack of creating false GPS coordinate signals, which lead to mismanagement of flight operations. It can definitely mislead navigation system. If the navigation systems are interpreted wrongly, then it could lead to accidents, it could lead to flights getting lost. It could lead to flights entering in different countries' domains without even intending to do so. And that's a very dangerous thing that is going on. A complete act of cyber attack. Now let's understand GPS jamming is different from that. GPS jamming happens when the GPS signals are completely blocked. That also leads to a difficulty in coordinating and navigating. But this is more dangerous because this is GPS spoofing. Here, fake signals are coming. And it is dangerous because landing is miscalculated, takeoff is miscalculated, routing is miscalculated. Unnecessary warnings are being issued to the pilots and they are getting panicky. It could lead to confusion among pilots. What is happening? The workload of the staff is also increasing. Flights are getting delayed constantly. Security wise, also, it could mean that tomorrow we could enter into a full blown cyber warfare. That's a dangerous thing. Electronic warfare systems are still not sophisticated in India. We are still trying to develop them. And that could mean we are very prone to such disasters. These could be used by a terror group, an NSA. It could be grouped by a hostile country in order to completely mess up India's air way and navigation system. Now, bodies such as International Aviation Agency have also warned that GPS spoofing is not a new thing. It is not reported, but it is becoming a major danger when it comes to cyber security, and it's a global aviation threat. Let's understand that. Because if you look at the recent data, 465 GPS spoofing incidents happened in the Amritsar Jammu border region in 2025, January onwards. Mostly all of them are cross-border military electronic systems. So this is like a warfare, yes. At the same time, the problem is Delhi is a new concept now. We have had so many incidents in Jammu Amritsar route, but New Delhi experiencing this is a matter of worry. It is a matter of grave concern because most of the flights are routed from here, national, international, or domestic. So that's a danger. Now the question is for people like you and me, is taking a flight safe? Is it an alarm? Not really, because as per the government data, every aeroplane, every aircraft has a multiple navigation system that is fixed into it. It is known as a system called IRS, Inertial Reference System. What is it called? Inertial Reference System, IRS. It can guide the pilot up to 5 hours also without a GPS. It's like a backup. Then it will also ensure radio-based navigations signals will keep coming to you. So pilot will also have other alternatives like pilot visual approach procedures, which means pilot can still have some vision and clarity and he will keep getting signals to navigate, but only up to 5-6 hours. So for long haul flights, it could be a danger. Yes, it could be. And the pilot workload also increases. At the same time, operational security is also endangered. So yes, it is a major situation. It is a global aviation attack, and the government, the agencies are therefore taking it very, very seriously right now. Correct? Absolutely. That's a valid point. Yes. Yesterday, even I saw in the newspaper, the only survival of the Air India tragedy, Deepak. Yes. Mr. Vishwas Kumar, he is suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. He's very, very messed up, and naturally so after such a big episode. Cyber attack can happen in hospitals like AIMS, absolutely. In the GPS navigation, correct. If tomorrow India becomes completely self-reliant, this problem can be reduced, but still hacking can take place. When Israel had attacked Iran, much before the attack, immediately all the mobile phones were hacked. So the cyber attacking is very advanced and sophisticated today. No wonder, as somebody mentioned, we have to look for theater warfare. That's important. Question: consider the following statements regarding GPS spoofing. In civil aviation, 1, GPS spoofing involves transmitting false navigation signals to mislead aircrafts about aircraft system and their actual position. Second, aircraft remain immediately unsafe after GPS spoofing because they rely only on satellite-based navigation signal without any backup. And 3, the inertial reference system IRS in aircraft can continue to aid. It can continue to aid navigation even if GPS signal fails. So which of these statements are now valid? Let us see who all are answering. Which of these signals are now valid? Which of these options are valid? So let's see who is answering. Okay, one second. Yeah. Okay, so many people answered already there, and we have Dipesh answered, and he says it's D. Okay. Then Saurav, Sumed, Ramu, Reshma, Rishi. Now, as I say that which is the right answer, look at the second statement once properly again. Aircraft remain immediately unsafe. Is that what we discussed? We spoke about a system called IRS, inertial reference system, that keeps on guiding you for at least 5 to 6 hours even after the GPS navigation has failed. Then apart from that, you have radio-based navigation, you have pilot visual approaches systems. All these are provided as some backup, but only for 5 to 6 hours. So immediately the unsafety is not happening after some time. So then second cannot be valid, making B the right answer. Yes, Dipesh, now it's correct. B is correct. Rishi, it's correct. Kojumba, Reshma, MKK, Saurav, Sumed, yes. Golu, absolutely. B is correct. Very good. We are talking about, that's fine, not a problem. We are talking about IRS. So well tried. Well tried. These are all the answers for you. There are 2 things pending from my side because time is already running out. Yes, Deepak. One thing is that I also want to include some Indian Express articles, and I thought I'll do it today, but now we'll start that from tomorrow. Second thing is that for the next month, entire monthly coverage that we are going to do, I just wanted to ask everybody that in the monthly coverage, should we just cover it news by news like we covered this time, by including all the October news that we have done? We did a 2-hour session and we covered all the revision. But would you prefer an approach where we break it down in polity, economy, depending on GS subjects? Whichever approach you like, let me know, I'll do that. Now, there is one more thing pending, the exact difference between Representation of People Act 1950 and 1951. Please allow me to take that tomorrow because it's 11 and other classes might be scheduled. So I'll come back tomorrow. You let me know your feedback on the monthly thing that I asked you. You want it differentiated topic by topic, syllabus by syllabus, or you want one whole integrated one like we did this time. Second, Indian Express articles, let's have them, and the difference between these 2 acts. My dearest Ramu, let me bring it back to you tomorrow. But I'm so sorry for today. I'll get back tomorrow for sure with it. Okay, so I'll take your leave now. Okay, like this time is fine according to Dipesh, not a problem. Thank you, Ramu. Thank you so much, my dearest. Tomorrow I'll bring it. In detail, we'll talk about it. Thank you so much. Saurav, Ramu, Dipesh, Sitaram, Akash, Kojumba, and Reshma, Sumed, Golu, Eric, all of you whose names have scrolled up, them also, all of you. All right, then. Thank you so much for being a part of the lecture and making it such an interesting one. Thank you, Soham. Thank you.